to the Best 5-Minute Wine Podcast. I'm your host, Forrest Kelly. From the seed to the glass, wine has a past. Our aim at the Best 5-Minute Wine Podcast is to look for adventure at wineries around the globe. After all, grape minds think alike. Let's start the adventure. Our featured winery is... In this episode, we head to the state that is the 10th largest state in area, but the least populated. It's home to Old Faithful in Yellowstone. Almost half the state is owned by the federal government through national forests, grasslands, an Air Force base. Rocky IV was filmed here. Rocky trained to fight Ivan Drago, not in the frozen landscape of Russia, but the Grand Tetons National Park in Wyoming.
Hello, this is Patrick Zimmer of Table Mountain Vineyards and Winery in Huntley, Wyoming, owner, winemaker, and we are Table Mountain Vineyards and Winery, and then we've just kind of adopted the moniker, the home of Wyo Wine, because we are kind of the largest and only vineyard in Wyoming. There's a few others, but that are actually growing the grapes and making 100% Wyoming wine.
So before Table Mountain Winery, there was the family farm, and what year was that established?
1926 was kind of the establishment of our family farm, which is still in our family today. My great-grandfather homesteaded. He was a World War I veteran and came to this area from Nebraska to homestead and make a farm. Keeping
a farm going is a full-time business, so I imagine that starting the winery was probably inspired by you.
I was a senior at the University of Wyoming. My major was in ag economics. We had to do a thesis project. I came home one winter. There was a meeting. We live right next to Nebraska, from the University of Nebraska, about growing grapes and possibility of starting a new industry in the Wyo-Nebraska area. I basically threw out my thesis paper and thought it was interesting enough to write a whole paper on it. And after that was said and done, my dad said, "You did all this work. We've got a few acres here and there. Let's plant some grapes." And that's really how we got into it, with no plan, just kind of the vision of trying to grow something outside of the realm of normal agriculture in Wyoming and being able to keep the same amount of land and start a new venture off of it.
So this is 2001. We've already landed a man on the moon, and yet wine and grapes hadn't been grown in Wyoming and Nebraska in the area before that successfully?
They had not successfully. I mean, there were a lot of homesteaders and immigrants throughout generations that brought grapes with them. There's some history you can find that there'd be some Italians here and there who would just bring truckloads of wine or grapes in from California or wherever, but nobody was actually trying to successfully do a vineyard. But at the time, there weren't any spots truly in Wyoming, climate-wise, that the traditional vinifera would grow there. So it took 20 years in the making from the University of Minnesota and other grape breeders in kind of the Midwest that were able to develop these cold hardy hybrids that can survive our very, very cold winters.
Yeah, I would say Wyoming is extreme. Their climate is drier and windier in comparison to most of the United States, with greater temperature extremes. The average high temperature during November, December, and January is a robust 34 degrees. In part 2 of our interview with Patrick of Table Mountain Winery in Wyoming, we'll find out how getting a law degree helps in the winemaking business.
Will somebody answer that phone?
It's time, boys and girls, for our listener voicemail.
Hi, this is Devin from San Antonio. I was wondering if you could grow grapes in any climate. What's the coldest climate that grapes grow in, and do all 50 states produce grapes?
Within reason, yes, you can grow grapes in any climate. Many European and international grape varieties can survive temperatures as low as minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. In fact, Minnesota's most popular cold climate hybrid varieties have been studied to survive temperatures as low as minus 35. Wine production is undertaken in all 50 states. In fact, California produces 89% of all United States wine, and the United States is the 4th largest producing wine country in the world, right after Italy, Spain, and France. Great question. Thank you very much, Devin.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening. I'm Forrest Kelly. This episode of the Best 5-Minute Wine Podcast was produced by iHizzle. If you like the show, please tell your friends and pets and subscribe. Until next time, pour the wine and ponder your next adventure.
This is Doug Vincent with the podcast Walk and Roll Live, Disability Stories. In 1956, I contracted polio. Thanks to my loving parents, I've lived a full, rich life over the past 67 years. Join me as I share my journey and uncover inspiring stories of resilience. This podcast is a platform for survivors of disability and those who champion services for the disabled community. Tune in on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, whatever your favorite podcast platform is. Let's walk and roll together on this incredible journey of strength and empowerment.